Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We're also 59 days away from kickoff. A little bit harder number. We'll touch base on that here in just a little bit. But
hey, Blake, before we get started, because people always blame you when we're late. That's on me. I just had a 12-pack of Monster Energy in honor of the breakfast. For breakfast, in honor of the Big 12, I had a 12-pack of Monster Energy. So, if y'all never seen a heart actually explode on live before, it might happen.
Stay tuned. Well, tell us who your favorite 59 is. We're going to get to that. We got Tony Hills that's going to join us as well. But guys, we haven't talked recruiting. I mean, it's only Tuesday, but we haven't talked it this week. So let's touch base on that, Jerry.
Yeah. So look, it's pretty much waiting for announcement days right now for Texas fans, for us, right? I mean, Landon Williams-Callis, Monshon Sales, obviously, those are the two uncommitted recruits that Texas is really working hard on here. And with Landon Williams-Callis, look, everything is pretty much the same here. We haven't heard anything that's different. Confidence in Austin. On the SMU side, Hank South talked to a source that SMU feels like it's Texas and SMU, and I think SMU feels like it's Texas that they're looking up at. So nothing's really changed this recruitment that we've heard. Could something change in the next 12 hours? Of course, it's recruiting. But right now we're waiting on an announcement date from Landon Williams-Callis, when that will be. I've said before, I think this is going to be big announcement celebration type of deal down in Richmond, Rosenberg, because not only is Michael Lewis, not only is Jaquiz Rogers and James Rogers and Landon Williams-Callis now, those are real hometown heroes down there. Like, this is going to be big celebration in Richmond, Rosenberg area when Landon Williams-Callis announces his decision. So this isn't something where you just tweet out an edit unless you're having a big celebration. Like, I've talked to a source multiple times, and they just believe this is going to be a big celebration commitment type event down there. So, and it could come in the first half of July. We'll see. Monshon Sales, I think, is tracking right now. Again, things can change, to announce before. And that we still continue to hear that's Indiana, Texas. I think Texas had some really good communication with Monshon Sales. What does that mean at the end of the day? It could mean a lot. It could mean, you finished close second. But we shall see on that. I think I think Monshon Sales, the one thing to know, and I've talked about this with Landon Williams-Callis, and I think it's the exact same with Sales. And this doesn't mean Indiana can't win this recruitment, obviously. They won the national championship. But these two guys you're looking at your screen, they didn't grow up. Sales didn't grow up with visions of wearing an Indiana Hoosiers uniform. So Indiana's got
a Big Ten uniform.
Or Big Ten, like he was SEC. And Landon Williams-Callis, I mean, look, SMU's got the juice in NIL. U of H has done a great job recruiting him as a hometown kid, but he didn't grow up dreaming of wearing that uniform. So that's what some of these schools still have to overcome in these recruitments is, look, Landon Williams-Callis grew up thinking of Oregon, thinking of Ohio State, thinking of the Texas SEC schools, right? Texas A&M SEC schools. He visited LSU. I mean, Sales grew up he's from Alabama. His nickname was Bama. I mean, let's be real. If Nick Saban was still the coach at Alabama, this recruitment would have been over a long time ago. Let's be real, right? But it's not. So these guys grow up with really big visions. These are highly recruited players. They had big eyes as a kid when they went to a Bama game, an SEC game, watched Oregon because they saw a similar player. Landon Williams-Callis saw similar build player having success there. And kids love the uniforms. That's what Indiana's got to overcome with Sales at the end of the day. Doesn't mean they can't. NIL's a game changer. But that's still what you have to overcome with guys like this. I want to mention Easton Royal as well, Bobby, before we get into these guys a little bit. And on Sales, we've heard July 10th, but nothing's been announced. So we'll wait for Sales and his people to make an announcement on a date he's going to commit. But we think that could come any day now. It's really just that's very close, I think, to a decision mode and announcement mode. Because going into the Texas OV, July 10th was talked about as a possible date, but we're at July 8th and there's been no announcement yet. So we'll see if there's an announcement coming in the next couple of days. Say July 10th is my day. We'll see. Hasn't been made yet. On Eastern Royal, I think Texas is LSU's applying a lot of pressure here, Bob. We've talked about it. I've said this recruitment to me is like Colin Simmons in reverse. People ask it every year, hey, what's the must-win recruitment for Texas in a class? Well, it was Colin Simmons was one of those. For LSU, it's Eastern Royal. So now, I mean, that's kind of the pressure that Lane Kiffin faces in his first year. They're like, hey, you can't let this guy go. You got to get this guy somehow, some way. That's a must-win recruitment. I think Texas is trying to take as much pressure off Easton as they can right now. I think they don't want to add to the pressure he's facing. So I think Texas has taken a more measured approach with this and just kind of given him some time to sit back and feel as the least pressure possible, because he's the guy that has pressure, so much pressure on him coming from everywhere right now. Some of it self-created, by the way, but a lot of it's not. That's the pressure that comes with being a 5-star in New Orleans, in South Louisiana. So I think Texas is just trying to, Bobby, sit back and let the kid kind of not feel pressure from their side, because he's feeling so much pressure outside and away from Texas.
I got a couple questions for you, Jerry. Number one, with Eastern Royal, do we feel like for so long we thought it was Texas and Florida and then LSU? Do we feel like Florida is now out of it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure anybody's out of it, but I think they're third for sure.
Okay, so that's number one. Number two is, do we believe Landon Williams-Callis has actually made a decision, or are we just waiting for it to play out, or is he still in the decision phase?
I think he's a heavy lean to Texas.
Okay, all right. So the last one, what about the same question for Monshawn Sales? Has he made a decision, or is he still in the decision phase?
I think he was in the decision phase as of Tuesday.
Okay.
Maybe as of Monday night.
You know what I mean? So, like, basically, I'm asking, has he, come to a decision? We're just waiting for the announcement, or is it being dragged out a little bit? And I think dragged out may not be the right word, but it's certainly one that kind of makes people understand what's going on here.
Yeah,
We're waiting
on Sales. I think the agent is still talking that multiple.
Okay, yeah,
but Indiana, Texas, where we still continue to hear the decision is likely to come from.
Good stuff, Jerry.
All right, I'll tell you what, Bobby. Before we get into the next segment, I'm going to let you tell everyone this morning about Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm.
Absolutely. If you've been involved in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind and think you might be due compensation, make sure you reach out to Adam and his firm, LowyLawFirm.com. They've been in business now for 21 plus years, helping injured Texans across the state, as well as in Austin specifically. Again, that is LowyLawFirm.com. Adam not only sponsors us here at On Texas Football, but also aspects of the University of Texas itself. I saw his picture walking into the softball stadium a couple weeks back at the celebration. He's there supporting the University of Texas athletics. So if you are injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, make sure you reach out to Adam and his group, LowyLawFirm.com.
All right. Well, yesterday we looked at a couple of things from Phil Steele regarding the SEC. And today, guys, I thought we could continue that because he has out his preseason top 40. Now, it's important to note his top 40 is based on where he projects teams to finish at the end of the season in the final rankings. So this isn't like a power rankings, which team's the most talented. This is where he's projecting teams to finish at the end of the year. Of course, he has Texas at number 4. For those listening, Notre Dame at 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Texas, Indiana, round out your top 5. Followed by Oregon, Miami, Alabama, Texas Tech, and BYU at 10. Others of note, Oklahoma at 13, Texas A&M at 16. But y'all's thoughts?
Look, so that means he doesn't think Texas is winning the national championship, or is this the end of the regular season, Blake, just to be clear?
He honestly, it doesn't say. It just says the final ranking. So I assume at the end of it all.
That means he's picking Notre Dame to win it all.
Yeah. No, I can't disagree with that as a option. It's not who I would necessarily pick, but I do believe Notre Dame has a tremendous team this year. The thing about Georgia, and we've talked about this, Jerry, yes, they have a lot of experience coming back at quarterback. They have a piece of the run game should be really good with Nate Frazier. They have 4 or 5 starters coming back on the offensive line. Their defense has 9, juniors or seniors, I believe, starting. Are they as talented as they've been, though? Georgia out-talented a lot of people.
Especially on that defensive front.
Yeah. Are they as talented today as they were 3 years ago? The answer is no, but to what degree is the no? Right?
Yeah.
They could be loaded with first and second and third round picks instead of just all first round picks, right? So
yeah,
it's a degree discussion. Ohio State 1 step ahead of Texas. I wonder what that means for his prognostication about the second Saturday in September when the Buckeyes come calling. I will go on record. I would highly doubt Indiana ends the season number 5 in the country. I just don't think Josh Hoover is that guy. Oregon, Miami, both better teams in my opinion. Alabama, going to start it. No matter who starts there at quarterback, it's a new one. So you got to look at that. Texas Tech, even without Brendan Sorsby, I guess, number 9. BYU has their sophomore quarterback returning after starting his year. So I look at the top 10, and I'm okay with everything down to I could see Indiana top 15 to top 20. But of the top 7, the only team I think is not as good as they think is Indiana. And so I think that top 6 are your actual national championship contenders. What would you want to bet that, Jerry? Like if you could take those top 6 teams and exclude Indiana, I think that there's like a 95% chance your national champion comes from those teams.
Yeah, I'm looking at Indiana's schedule right now. They have a 3-game stretch at Nebraska, Ohio State at home, and at Michigan in October. That is a tough, I think, a potential tough stretch for them. Then they have November, USC at home and at Washington. They have 5 games. There's Minnesota in between in an off week. There's 5 games they're going to make or break them, I think, this year. Could you put that list back up? Look, they get Ohio State at home, though. That's the one thing. So Phil Steele's going with Ohio State over Indiana. And I think it's hard. I think repeating, look in that position is – and then you have different expectations. You have that different bullseye on you. Indiana's never faced that. That means Cignetti can't navigate his team around it. But I definitely think it's different for them this year than being the hunter. Being the hunted is a totally different world. And your next group of guys that come in weren't part of that process. They kind of just see it, this is what's going to happen now at Indiana. It doesn't work that way. Nick Saban's the only guy that's really fought that through a 15-year period better than anybody else did. But yeah, I think it's I think Miami's going to be interesting to me too, because I think Mintz is a upgraded quarterback and is a tremendous college quarterback, but they also lost their whole offensive line. So what does that mean for them? But he's got Tony. He comes in with really good players around him, better than he's ever had. Not even question. They lost 2 tremendous edge rushers at Miami too. So I think up front they got some things to prove, but they get to prove them in the ACC too. That helps them. The other thing with Notre Dame, so if he has Notre Dame 1, he's a little higher on their schedule than everybody else is because, if you look at that, Notre Dame plays Miami at home, at BYU, and SMU. So that's 3 in the top 12. So he's a little higher on Notre Dame's schedule than the vast majority of America is, right? He actually has them as beating 3 teams that are ranked in the top 12, which would definitely bolster them in the college football playoff rankings if that actually pans out. But yeah, I'm fine with the list. I don't think Georgia's going to end up 2, although they have a better schedule than Texas does. I'll say that they have a better schedule than Texas does to finish 2. But I don't have a real problem with the rankings. I don't have a problem with somebody having Notre Dame number 1. They got a lot of guys back. They got their quarterback back for year 2, and they have a schedule.
Should have a really good offensive line too.
Really good offensive line.
Even though they lost Jeremiah Love, who I think was phenomenal player. People are saying Notre Dame's overrated. Historically, yes, they are overrated. But I don't think they will be this year, to Jerry's point, because they have too many pieces and they've recruited really well, I think, and retained well. So I like Notre Dame's team. And, even though they play 3 teams in the top 12, that's the rest of their games are not hard. I'll just put it that way. It feels like an old Big 12 schedule.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We have a couple of super chats that I wanted to get to real quick. This one here from Trey Hicks. He says, Hicks family headed back to Texas today, listening on the road. What are 2 things that have to happen for Texas to win it all? Happy Wednesday, and OU still sucks.
Offense needs to really, really click early. That's what needs to happen, because not only do you have Ohio State that second game, then you go on the road to Tennessee in the 4th game, and you come back to Dallas for OU in the 5th game. So that's 3. Like Tennessee is going to have a good defense with Jim Knowles. Don't forget that. I mean, he was at Oklahoma State and gave Sark problems at Ohio State, then went to Penn State for a year, and now he's at Tennessee. So I think 3 of the first 5 games, there are going to be some defensive guys that are really Texas is going up against that are pretty stout, and defensive personnel. And so I think that the Texas offense has to come out of this season hot. So that's one. Obviously, that means Arch Manning plays well and that they're on time and all of that stuff. The second piece that I think has to happen is, I'm going to try to say this the right way. I think special team. I think defense can be okay under Will Muschamp. It's going to have spots where they'll miss and Newt coming. All special teams has to be good and has to be solid. Particularly the kicking game, because you're going to win. I mean, don't forget, Texas won some games because of the kicking game last year.
And they're going to have close games on this schedule.
And they're going to have close games in the schedule.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't lose them in the kicking game. And both of these guys, even though they've proven it elsewhere, they are new to Texas. So I think that my comment there would be offense has to come out of the gate running, and special teams needs to be solid and good, especially in key moments.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to harp on it in a while, so I will now. I want to see Texas finish around 60 to 65 in penalties. It can't be in the 120, 130 range. Not on this schedule. If it is, it's not going to be good. So you got to – I think the discipline on the field, for me, actually may be number one. I think they need to look – Ole Miss made a huge jump from 24 to 25 in penalties. I think they went from 118 to like 58 or something in that range. Somebody can look up the exact number. I think we need to see Texas make that exact same jump, something like that, to where you can definitively look at it, even by the numbers, even if that's just 1.4 penalties a game difference, and say this is a much more disciplined football team on Saturdays on the field. I think if you can do that with the talent Texas has and the experience they have, I think that's going to be a really good sign for this team. I mean, but I think we need to see a dramatic jump in where you rank in penalties, because I think that's going to show you a lot about how much you improved last year. Because anything over 120, 125.
So that's one. What is another thing?
For me, I think the secondary's got to come through on this schedule. Because look, I mean, I think when Will Muschamp comes in and he's tremendous, these guys aren't miracle workers either. I mean, I think you got to have some guys come through at the other corner spot opposite Masco. Because think about where we were going into spring practice.
So you're basically secondary and discipline.
Yes,
essentially.
Yeah. I mean, look, if we're having to answer questions about the offense midway through the year, then things aren't going well with the talent they have. Like you're not going anywhere anyways if we're sitting here talking about offensive struggles midway through the year with this talent. So
well, I mean, here's my thought on that though: is the 3 of the first 5 games I mean, they may face the two best defenses out of the gate in the first 5 games.
Maybe.
I mean, realize that with Ohio State and Oklahoma. I mean, that's, you think Florida will be okay on defense. You think Ole Miss will be okay. I mean, nobody is looking at those defenses after Oklahoma and saying, "Oh my goodness." But you've got Ohio State, you've got Oklahoma in the first 5, and then you go to Tennessee, your first road game. I think that's where I come out on this. They gotta get out of the gate fast on offense, right or wrong.
Yeah,
they can't expect to go to Tennessee and score 21 points and win. Can't do it. You're gonna have to score 30.
Maybe.
I feel pretty strongly about that.
Yeah. Look, it's offensive game, no doubt. But I look at the secondary for Texas because of who you're playing, the level of offenses you're playing, the level of quarterbacks you're playing, the level of talent, skill talent you're playing. Look, and again on the offense, I don't even know what to say if they struggle on offense this year.
I didn't say struggle though, Jerry.
Well, but I think with the talent they have, if you score 20 points, you're struggling. Like if you can only muster 21, that's a struggle with the talent, with the money you spent on offense and NIL in the portal. That's a struggle.
2 running backs, a wide receiver, offensive tackle, offensive guard. You may be right.
I mean, if we're sitting there saying, "Golly, it's 17-14 at Tennessee midway through the fourth quarter," that's a struggle on offense. For the talent level in this team and expectations of this team, that's a struggle. For me, it's the secondary. I think has to really come through because of the schedule they play up over the course of the season. You're just playing too many talented quarterbacks, wide receivers, skill guys. That I've said before. My opinion is you can play pretty good coverage this year and still get beat. I mean, in the secondary, your secondary has to come through. They have to be disciplined in the secondary. You have to have somebody. You have to have a Cade Phillips come through opposite Bo Masco. Somebody's got to step up at that second safety and be a player for Will Muschamp. If it's a rotating door back there, I'm not sure that's ideally what you want. But I think the good thing about this conversation is, there's been a lot of 12-0 predictions. The schedule's really tough. And
I don't know that there's been a lot of 12-0 predictions. I think we did ours about a couple of months ago post-spring, and I think I was the only one that went with 12-0.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sticking with that in our preseason predictions coming up, but I don't know that with this schedule, I don't know that everybody's all in on 12-0. I think everybody would like to be.
But I still think the number one thing with this team, it's great discussions, chat to the comments. I think the number one thing, the most improved thing with this team, a lot of people would say offensive line. I think it's penalties. I think it's things you can point to and say this is a much more disciplined football team than a year ago. I think that's going to be number one when we look at this team at the end of the year.
I'll reiterate. 3 games in the first 5, you're going to need to score points. And I will also add this. Arch Manning didn't exactly come out of the gate running last year.
No.
And so he got into the season and then became really, really talented. So it's got to be a different Arch Manning at the outset of the season this year.
By the way, and I'm not going to shy away from saying this, Ohio State's a must-win game for Steve Sarkisian in Texas.
Must-win
game. Yeah. Because look, for Sark personally, I think it's a huge game for him. Because look, the reality for Sark is, and you can go, it's what is going to be said if you lose to Ohio State. Oh, well, you're 0-3 against Day, or 0-3 against Kirby, or 0-2 against the board. You know what's going to be said. It's a huge game for Sark. It's Ohio State at home. I think for the season, though, if you say you have to go 10-2 to get into the playoffs didn't expand, no 9-3 is going to get in, then I think Ohio State and Texas, it's a must-win game for both of them. And I know it. We're covering Texas, so I've said it for Texas. I think it's a must-win game for Ohio State too. Look at their road schedule. Look at Texas' schedule after this. So the loser of that game has a 1-game cushion to still get in the playoff. And it's a 9-game SEC schedule for the first time with only 1 off week instead of 2. So I think injuries are going to factor into the SEC race heavily this year because it's 9-game schedule with 1 week off. So you don't get that extra week to heal up a little bit. So I think it's a must-win game for both teams if you look at the rest of their schedule, because I don't think either one of those teams wants to come out of September 12th with 1 game of leeway, 1-game cushion remaining on the rest of their schedule. I think that's a tough spot to be. Doesn't mean you can't do it. I just think it lowers your odds.
Well, it definitely lowers your odds
quite a bit because Ohio State's road schedule is tough. If people hadn't looked at that, like I think both of these people are like, we got to win this game. I think both sides. So that's going to be it's going to be a lively environment. I think for the chat too. My last point. I think the environment for this game, coming off of last year's game, because where both teams are ranked, I think the environment for this game will rival or eclipse the 2022 Bama game in Austin. I think it may be the environment's going to be off the charts for this game. As long as the weather's good and it's not pouring rain or something, it's hurricane rolls through or something crazy. I think the environment's going to be rival or beat the Alabama game. I was at that Alabama game, and that's the best environment I've ever seen in DKR.
I'm ready for it. Now you got my juices flowing talking about that. That makes me want to wake up on a Saturday morning and get to the stadium early. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's start the tailgate for the Ohio State game at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Get ready for it by 7,
We got excuse me. We have a super chat here from Jeff Davis. Thank you, Jeff. My prediction, and a lot won't agree, says Jeff. I think Texas, if the O-line improves, will win a lot of their games comfortably and even dominate some SEC competition. I think some fans don't realize the talent.
I agree with this, actually. So I think how many of those teams, though, is it going to be 2 or 3 or 5? And it's more likely to be 2 or 3. Just because of who you're playing, Jeff. I think somebody wrote in the chat earlier, they have 8 top 30 teams they're playing this year. So 8 of 12. So how many of those are you going to really realistically roll, so to speak?
Yeah.
I would add this. The one thing I wrote the other day still stands true. Texas is not the only team that thinks they improved their roster.
100%. And we haven't seen all those other people.
Right. And so until you actually see what Oklahoma did with their offense, for example, not just everybody's making this big talk about, John Mateer's changed his throwing motion. Likely John Mateer is very similar to what he was last year. Now, he could improve linearly, but not exponentially. That just doesn't happen. But the pieces around him could be that much better. They could have a better run game. They could have, I know they're going to have better tight end play. And that matters in that blocking scheme. And so they'll have a year older offensive line, better offensive line. So those things matter that we haven't seen actually in play yet.
Let's see. Then we have a super chat from Rocky P. He says, can't wait for the new sponsorship for Locos in football. Make it happen, Bobby. Who's the most important non-starter for Texas this year?
Non-starter, Jerry? What do you got?
Non-starter. I mean, I consider a kicker and a punter a starter.
Jerry he reverts to special teams at all times, guys.
Well, I think kicker is going to be really big this year because I think there's going to be a lot of tight games.
Interesting one came up. from Daniel Honorado. Justice Terry, could he be an X factor on this team? Could be.
Yep.
Non-starter. I'm going to go with Zena.
Yeah,
Mosley.
I like that. I think the pass rush. How are you going to maximize your pass rush? Who's going to be those? Who's going to step up with Colin?
And you don't think he's going to start ahead of Lance Jackson or Colin Simmons?
No, I like Zena. I
think that could be a big one.
I think I consider a 1A, 1B at running backs. It's hard to say, oh, well, Smothers, because if Relik's the starter or Smothers the starter, Relik, I think that's a tougher one. Most important, I'll tell you this, the running back, the goal line, the short yardage running back, and a closer, whoever that is. Because if Relik is your starter, it's probably not going to be him running the ball between the tackles to close out a game. So who is that guy? But I think Bobby's on it. I think how is Muschamp going to create and maximize the pass rush around Colin Simmons? I think Zena's going to be a better pass rusher on the edge than Lance Jackson. I think Lance Jackson interior can be a destroyer and as a pass rusher right now. So I think Zena's a good choice for that.
Could be Brad Spence if he doesn't start.
Yeah.
That my thinking, and here's another thing. I didn't go inside on the defensive interior.
Because they just rotate.
Because they rotate so heavily. I mean, it's not the first four are equal starters and equal parts starters. Yes, there's somebody that opens the game that is probably your better player, but they rotate those guys so heavily. At least they have under Sark. I'm sure they're going to do it under Muschamp as well.
Yeah.
That's an assumption, though. Don't know that for sure.
So Antoine asked, when Colin Simmons subs out, let's see who comes in for him. Yeah. Yep. That's a good one. I like Brad Spence too. It's those guys who are going to maximize the pass rush.
All right. Before we get to some more questions, and we haven't even talked about Joey McGuire's comments on Sark in Texas. First, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Mint Mobile this week.
Yep. Absolutely. There are things in life that you don't want to be transparent, like your swimsuit, especially not mine, or your search history on the internet. But when it comes to your wireless bill, transparency is everything. That's why Mint Mobile's wireless plans have no gimmicks and no gotchas, just high-speed data and reliable coverage on the T-Mobile 5G network. And right now, all plans are $15 per month, even the unlimited ones. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right with premium wireless for just $15 a month. You can even bring your current phone and your number. It's portable on the same day. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/ontexas. That's mintmobile.com/ontexas. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/ontexas. That's it. There's absolutely no catch whatsoever. Just choose from 3, 6, or 12 months plans and say goodbye to your monthly bill. This disclaimer must be read verbatim. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Includes up to 20 gigabytes of hotspot. Capable device is required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for details. Again, that's mintmobile.com/ontexas.
You're muted.
Just realized I'm muted. And Jerry, if you'd be so kind to tell us about Zen AI.
Oh, I can do that. This is a fun one. This summer, don't just watch the game, vibecast it. Zen AI is home to vibecasting, a new way to capture and share real sports conversations. No studio, no fancy gear. Your phone is the whole setup. Arguing about who should have taken the last shot, breaking down every play, hit record, talk it out, and Zen AI turns that convo into a sportscast you can share as clips, reels, and even TikToks. An AI producer works behind the scenes, cleaning up audio, cutting highlights, and helping you tweak edits just by chatting in plain English. Go live while the game is on, or record your hot takes after. If you're Joey McGuire, you recorded them yesterday. Bring your own co-host or find another fan in ZenAI's network. This summer, ZenAI is paying new Vibecasters to launch their first sportscast. Humans are the talent. AI is the infrastructure. ZenAI is invite only. Hit the Zen.ai to join the waitlist. That's Zen.ai, or tap the link in our show notes.
Thank you both. Okay, well, let's get to McGuire's comments here. He was asked about Texas yesterday and Sark, and overall, a little bit better answer, in my opinion, than we've heard in the past. Here's what he had to say.
Tomorrow. We don't need any film study or anything like that, man. I know they don't either. They got a great football team, one of the best teams in the country. They're going to be really good this year. The thing, I have a lot of respect for Sark, for people that have covered the University of Texas for a long time. What he's been able to do to be successful and sustain success, it's hard to do. Mac Brown was the last coach to be able to do what he's doing, and before that, y'all would have to help me of who was before that other than Darryl Roll that literally had the success that Sark's having. And so I have a lot of respect for him. If you go back and you look on record, I've said continuously, I think he's one of the best play callers, in the game today. And shoot, we were texting the other day. Jeff Traylor put me and Sark in a group text. There's a Division I panel at the THSCA coaching school, and he wants to sit between us. I told Jeff he's going to have to step up the sports coach game if he's going to sit between me and Sark, because Sark's probably going to have that burnt orange sports coat. I'm going to wear this one or wear a red one. But I want to play him. Man, I'm a Texan. I was born in Texarkana, Texas, in Wadley Regional Medical Center in 1971. I grew up in the Southwest Conference. Texas and Texas Tech are supposed to play. Texas and Texas A&M are supposed to play, and they are playing. SMU is supposed to play. I'd love to play Rhett Lashley. I mean, if you're a Texan, and you're a fan of the football in this state, then why would we go outside the state to play non-conference games if we're not in conference anymore? Because you have such good football in this state. And so I would love to play Texas A&M. SMU's not in the conference. I would love to play those guys just because I think it's great for the state of Texas. It's great for the high school coaches and the high school players in the state of Texas, and that might be one reason that we have so many kids leaving the state is because we're not playing each other anymore. I remember whenever I was a high school coach, growing up through the system that, you didn't have as many kids leaving the state was probably because the doors are open because we're playing so many other out of conference instead of playing each other.
First thing I got to say is he looks like he's a salesman for Brock's peppermint candy. I mean, that guy could be he's like going to come knock on the door and tell you like 1 million peppermints for $32.75 and make you like it. But good to see their Cedar Hill salesman back on the mic. They took the mic from him midway through the Sorsby saga, but he's trying to sell me Brock's candies. That's all I know.
Yeah, I was going to say he looked like the lead at a clown show. He looked like the MC. I don't mean that actually. He spoke incredibly articulately. I'm talking about just the look. If you're listening to this on podcast by chance, the coat that Joey McGuire is wearing is something special. I wonder if Jeff Traylor, though, while he's sitting in the middle between Sark and Joey McGuire, is going to ask about playing a player that bet on his own team.
Yeah, those two guys.
And what Steve Sarkisian would have to say about that? I don't know. I mean, look, I listened to that, and I heard that yesterday, so I immediately went and tried to jog my mind and remember who Texas has played the most, because you can't play everybody.
No,
and Texas already have 2 non-conference in-state and UTSA and Texas State, right? Well, Texas Tech is tied for 7th on the list of all-time opponents for the University of Texas. So Rice is ahead of him, SMU's ahead of him, Baylor's ahead of him. So this whole thing that Texas is supposed to play Texas Tech, maybe in Lubbock, that's the call. That's not the call in Austin, never has been, frankly. So that's part one. Part two, this whole analogy of making college football provincial and keeping everything within the state, that sounds really good. I've seen it in practice, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Because no player wants to just play in the state of Texas, even if you grew up in the state of Texas. They want to go play on the biggest stage of all at Michigan, at Ohio State, at Florida, at USC. They want it all. They want it all.
Yeah.
Oh, but let's keep it in. We should play SMU. We should play Rice. We should play U of H every year.
Nah.
It just doesn't work that way, and he knows that. I mean, he's saying that he was born in 71. I was born in 69.
Yeah.
I grew up at a time where they flocked out of state and left the Southwest Conference. Does he want to return to that? That's essentially what he's saying.
Yeah.
I think that's just
it makes no sense.
I think it's convoluted and it serves its own purpose.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And so while I appreciate that he seems to have toned the rhetoric down overall, to Blake's point, the holes in his statement are, very Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hard to see through them.
No. Look, the only way being isolated within your own state works is if you're winning national championships. And the reality is the state of Texas has not. You know who has? The Big Ten and the SEC. Now, if Texas had 3 teams that have won national championships and you were dominant, you could almost say we'll just isolate ourselves and keep our –
When's the last non-University of Texas team that has won a national championship in the state of Texas?
That's the problem with saying that's what I'm getting at. You can't do that when you're not winning national championships.
UT's the only one.
Yep.
It's what, 1939?
Yeah. Yep.
87 years, 88 years, going to be this year.
Unbelievable statement.
Yeah, that just shows. Like I said, I think he knows. He was born 2 years later than me. We watched the Southwest Conference dissolve exactly because of that insular thinking.
Yeah,
did we not? I mean, I lived through it.
Yeah.
Hell, they were all going to Oklahoma.
Yep.
Much less. I mean, Oklahoma wasn't part of the big part of the Southwest Conference. They were going to Nebraska, USC, UCLA.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Don't be so insular in your thinking, Joey.
But you can bring me my Brock's. With that jacket, you can bring me my Brock's peppermints at Christmas time. Thank you.
I gotta be honest. I love the soft ones. Yeah, the soft chewable ones.
Those are the ones he'd deliver.
Oh man! All right, we're gonna have Tony Hills join us in just a moment, but real quick, I need to tell everyone about Prize Picks this morning because there are a lot of ways to watch sports. You can sit back, check the score, maybe flip between games, or you can have something riding on every swing, every shot, every touch, every possession, and that is where Prize Picks comes in. The summer sports calendar is loaded right now. Baseball is rolling. The WNBA has been a blast. And World Cup, it has everybody watching. Maybe not USA so much anymore. But Prize Picks gives you a simple way to make all of it more interesting. You just look at player projections and then decide one thing, more or less. That's it. You build your lineup, you submit your picks, and now you're locked in from the first whistle to the final out. And today we are taking Caitlin Clark to have more than 11.5 points. And then we're also taking Miami pitcher Tyler Phillips to have more than 3.5 strikeouts. And that's what makes Prize Picks fun. You can go across your sports, you trust your read, you can make the call, and suddenly every little moment matters. And yes, Prize Picks is available in all 50 states, including right here in the great state of Texas. So download the app, use code HMA when you sign up, play $5 in lineups, and you'll get $50 in lineups instantly. Again, that's code HMA when signing up on the Prize Picks app. 5 get you 50. And as always, play smart, play responsibly, play Prize Picks. All right, speaking of responsible, good morning, Tony. How are you?
Man, listen, I've been enjoying the banter all morning, man. This has been amazing. You guys are nuts.
Hey, where's your peppermint-looking hoodie, Tony? Like Joey McGuire wore yesterday. As a child.
Listen, you have to know who you are. I'm not built that way.
Me either. Me either, Tony. Hey, Tony, Jerry and I were actually talking pregame today about what we might be talking to you about. So a couple things came up. Obviously, Texas down with 5 offensive line commitment. That was one of the things we wanted to talk about. Then also, you know, you were part of the 2005 national championship team. And Jerry and I were thinking, like, you know, where is Texas better or worse or about the same at each position versus 2005 versus 2026? Where do you want to start? You want to start with the 5 offensive linemen, or you want to start with comparing it to 2005?
Yeah, let's start with the championship team, and then we'll end it on the backside. I definitely like this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, Vince Young versus Arch Manning. I think you picked Vince Young.
Absolutely.
No questions asked. Now let's talk about the rest of the offense, where you had a Selvin Young that was a starter, but you also had guys that were touchdown scorers like Jamal Charles and Ramont Taylor at running back versus 2 all-conference guys in Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown, and the true freshman Derek Cooper. Is that closer to a draw because Jamal was a true freshman at that point, or what do you think?
Yeah, you know, man, this is a very interesting conversation because, for one, you're looking at the body of work of what a team has accomplished and the individuals have accomplished, and you want to make sure you keep it in the collegiate rank and not allow it to move or, you know, flow into what they've done professionally, being, you know, considerably getting ready to be a Hall of Famer in Kansas City, that being Jamal Charles and all that. So keeping it at the college space. When you look at the backs and you look at the explosiveness of the backs, right, and the time frame, I would say that you would take Raleek and you would take Smothers. You would take them 2 over Selvin.
Yep.
Right, more production.
Yeah, well, Selvin was never an all-conference player.
No, at all, right? And so now that leaves you at a situation to where you're judging Jamal Charles at that time versus these young men at their time right now. And you would say that the body of work of Smothers and Brown actually are better when you compare them at the time, not what Jamal becomes, but where he is at that time. So from and this is going to sound wild to people, I want y'all to know where this is the reason why I prefaced the statement. But I would actually take Smothers and Brown over the backs that we had at that particular time because of the production of where you look at them at their particular spaces, not the projection of what they became, but where they are in their space. I would take those backs.
I think it's interesting. Actually, these 2 backs may be most similar to those 2 in Ramont Taylor and
Jamal,
and Jamal, because these guys are touchdown scorers from long distance.
Correct.
And that's what Jamal and Ramont could do.
Correct.
Receivers, I think it's a clear, even with Quan Cosby, lineman speed, I still think Cam Coleman, Emmett Mosley, and Ryan Wingo, along with some of the younger guys, are a clear win. Tight end, though, I got to give it to David Thomas.
Yes.
Without question. David Thomas, his senior year at Texas in that 2005 run, did not drop a single pass all year.
David Thomas is one of the most non-talked about, underrated players in Texas history. I'm just going to say that, right? Like, and it wasn't just the fact that he was one of the most reliable. He was Vince's safety blanket. Like, when it was third down and were critical, you knew where the ball was going, and he delivered every time. But one of the things about DT is that he had a phenomenal will to win in the run game. You're talking about an undersized guy who more than superseded what his natural capability was. And then it just came down to heart, and I'm not going to fail because my team cares about me. One of the hardest working guys at the university. One of the reasons why my work ethic transcended into what it was, because I had him as a leader, he wasn't a talkative person, but I watched him. I watched how he moved. I watched how things were important to him. I watched how diligent he was in the locker room. I watched how diligent he was in the film room. I watched how diligent he was on the practice field. This dude rarely, if ever, if David Thomas made a mistake in practice, like, it was like, oh, whoa, okay, we gotta sit back. Is this game plan the right game plan for us? Because he made a mistake, right? Like, that's how like on this guy was every single day. So yeah, I'm definitely taking DT over the tight ends that we currently have.
Offensive line. Like, I gotta hear this answer, because look, I mean, Jonathan Scott, long-term NFL pro, left tackle. Right tackle at that time was Justin Blaylock.
Yeah.
Sin line stuttered.
Had some mean guys on the interior.
Yeah, some mean guys. But look, Gooseby is set to go higher than all of those guys in the NFL draft, don't he?
Yeah. And then you got to do it. But what metrics are we comparing? Because the offensive line that production is a lot different than skill position, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at consistency, the first thing I would go at is, okay, well, what's one of the easiest measurables that we can have for offensive linemen as a left tackle? Well, what are left tackles usually judged upon? Pass pro rating. How many sacks do you give up in that season versus how many sacks were given up by Trevor Gooseby? But then the argument then boils down to, well, Jonathan Scott played in the Big 12 and Gooseby plays in the SEC. And that is a valid argument.
Yeah.
So
you know what else's argument? It's a hell of a lot harder to sack Vince Young than it is any known human.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's factors. And so listen, I got to look at the consistency. I got to look at the consistency. And I'll go with Jay Scott for another reason. He was also dominant in the run game too. Jay Scott was a dominant run blocker. He wasn't just a good pass protector. He moved people, right? And I believe when we were on here maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, you asked me, where can Gooseby get better to solidify the projection of what the NFL season? And I said specifically, he has to get better at moving people in the run game, right? Well, Jay Scott already possessed that. So I'm going to go there. When it comes to the interior, see, that's going to be interesting because I haven't seen these guys like the interior slot really play like that. You know what I mean? So it's hard to give a great evaluation.
One thing I said, Tony, on the OL was, I think Casey Studdard was such a difference maker.
Yes.
Physicality.
Yes.
Forcing others to be physical.
Correct.
I think he raised everybody's notch, the physicality, and I think that it's similar to David Thomas, what you said about David Thomas, but not that level.
Yeah.
That physicality on that line, I think, was so impressive to me. And people say, well, they had Vince, of course, but that offensive line was physical at the point of attack at the POA now. And that is kind of, they were built, the funny thing is they were built for the SEC, that offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if you're looking at comparison of times past, I felt like that's who DJ Campbell was. If you want to know DJ Campbell's superpower, I felt like it was his ability to be extremely physical. I still vividly with clarity remember him versus Mason Graham in that conversation about what is Texas interior going to do with these guys inside. And when we get on the goal line, I think we're going towards the north end zone. And when we get on the goal line, and it's like, I think it was like 2nd and 6 or something like that. I watched this man literally pick up this first round pick out of his shoes and place him on his back. I said, that's different.
Yeah.
That's different. And you can go back and pick time and time again how this guy, he loves violence. Not saying he's the quickest footed, not saying he's the most athletic, but when it comes to a tempo setter and you have to have a guy on your line that does that, that's what I thought DJ was, which was similar to what Casey was for us and what he was for me. Like Casey let it be known when I played next to him with words I can't use on this show, we gonna play a different type of style of football. It ain't gonna be no soft play at the University of Texas. He let it be known to me, and I said, all right, well, I'm with it, right? And so having like somebody like that, the enforcer on your line to elevate it, is extremely important. So again, I when you look at Blaylock versus Baker, you take Blaylock.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they have similar body types, but you take Blaylock, and I take Blaylock for one reason alone. Similar to David Thomas, his consistency. I never saw Blaylock get beat. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm saying me, like visually, I've never seen it. I haven't seen it in pass pro. I hadn't seen it in the run game. He was one of the most consistent players at that position that I had ever seen.
All right.
On the defensive line, Tony.
Yep.
Obviously, there's no Colin Simmons. He's the greatest pass rusher. You know, I think may end up being considered in Texas history if he's healthy this year, if he has a healthy season this year.
Yep.
I told Bobby though, and by the way, thanks to whoever it was on OTF that kind of brought this up in a thread yesterday. It got me thinking about this with you on the show today. I thought that defensive line in 05 was really built for the SEC because you had size and run stopping ability across the board on that defensive front. I mean, Brian Ropus obviously was a big part of OTF. That was a big athletic guy. Tim Crowder, big guy to play the run, obviously. And you had some young guys like Brian Arakpo coming off the bench on that team. But I thought that defensive line was built for SEC football.
Yeah, no, definitely. When you look at the size and the strength and the physicality and the ability to get to the passer, but if you're saying comparison, there's no comparison. Colin Simmons,
right?
You take Colin Simmons over everybody.
Anybody.
Yeah. So now you start looking at the interior. So you look at Rod Wright and you have Frank Okam. And then we have now. I know Hero is back.
Alex January.
January.
Murad Watson. I think the depth. You also had Derek Loki. I think it was.
Derek Loki was a part of that.
Roy Miller played as a backup that year.
Correct. And so that, like, you take. I mean, for me, you look at those four versus what we have. I'm taking those four all day.
I think actually, I'll say this. I think that group, the interior group on defense for Texas this year, will be better than that group eventually.
Yes.
I think that's where I come out a little differently.
I agree.
Linebacker, Tony.
Yeah.
Aaron Harris is part of that group.
Yeah.
You got Rasheem Biles, Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
I would go linebackers 2026.
Yep.
And then the secondary, I just don't think there's any question that 2005 in the history of Texas football.
That's the farthest position apart.
Yeah. That's further apart than Vince and Arch.
Yeah. I don't even think that. I don't even think that's I think you just checked that box off. That's not even a discussion to be had. I mean, so Aaron Ross, Terrell Brown, both the Griffin brothers,
Huff,
Michael Huff, and when you talk about like a twinge player that played a little bit of both, you had Andrew Kelson there too.
Yeah.
Right. There was a good addition to that defense. So now secondary goes to 05 for sure.
Yeah. That's good. Good talk. Do you think Texas overall has the group this year to win a national championship then?
I do. But I believe what you said was very pivotal when you talked about the biggest thing is going to be the non-football plays, right? The mental errors, the penalties. Like, and again, with Texas is going to come down. Okay. Removing injury off the table. I mean, obviously, we know we play in 100% injury sport, and that can, derail a season depending on who the injury is, right? So removing that off the table, and you look at it just from a straight football analysis or analytical perspective, Texas, from a talent-based standpoint, has everything that they need. Texas' biggest issue was having better offensive line play. Seemingly, you've been able to go out and get the players that you desire to make that happen. You said you needed to be more consistent in the running game. Well, you went and got two of the most explosive backs in the country. You needed to make sure that there was some better talent in the receiver room. Well, you have some of the best receivers. If one of them might be a Balentikov a recipient, right, in the country. So based off of that aspect, offensively, there is no excuse for you not to go out and dominate each and every week. You have all the talent, and you have an older Arch Manning who has been through the season of growth, right? That brother has been in the wilderness, and now he looks to move towards the promised land. He understands what SEC ball is about. He understands what he needs to do. He's a year in the offense, so it's no longer about him thinking. Now it's about read and react. It's a different type of Arch Manning that you're going to see. You've seen his confidence. The biggest moment for me is when they show Arch sitting on the bench and he said, I just need to stop giving an F.
Yep.
That Arch right there, if that's the one that's going into the season, I'm rubbing my hands and licking my lips because I'm like, yo, this is the guy we've been thinking that we were going to get. So I'm excited about that. Defensively, you go and get one of the best defensive play callers in college football that sat right next to who I arguably believe is one of the best, if not currently the best college coach in the country, with that being my guy at Georgia, right? And so now you have all of that knowledge, you have that schematic, you have that talent, you have that body style. What excuse do you have not to go out and get it done? Like, and I get the schedule is tough. Okay. What does that matter? You play the opponents that are in front of you. Like, if you thought the road to the national championship was going to be easy, it's not, right? And you would much rather go through this and be having to go through the file and the trials and the tribulations of this schedule to actually understand who you truly are. Because when you get to the national championship, the reason Georgia has been dominant is because they've played these type of schedules and they've come out on top. So why does Texas not do the same thing? It's to what you said, Bobby. It's making sure that when we're in those pivotal moments, that we stay aggressive, that we have trust in our team, that we don't cower down from the moment, and that we execute every single time. That's the consistency that has to happen. And if that happens for Texas, we're going to be some very excited fans, and they're going to be holding up a trophy.
They will definitely be, Jerry and Tony and Blake, they will be tested. And so if they make it through, their feet will be held to the fire and they will have survived.
Yeah.
This is a gauntlet of the schedule. You're not going to be more tested than what they are when it comes to the playoffs. You're just not if they get there.
Yeah. Tony, to that point, and I brought this up on the show a few times, Nick Saban had 6 undefeated conference seasons out of 16 at Alabama.
Yep.
It's a hard league to go undefeated in one. I know it's changed because of portal, but it's the most talented conference. But what did that do? That prepared their team.
Correct.
Prepared their team. And so if Texas can get through this, then they're prepared. You could go in 10-2 and be more prepared than Notre Dame at 12-0 because of the schedule you played. I would rather be in that position, although you wouldn't. I don't even know if you want to have a bye, but I want to be prepared going in.
You would have
10-2. That means 10-2.
You would have seen. Okay, so I'll say this. I want to talk about the preparation. There would have not been a situation that you've gone throughout this season. You find yourself in the playoff that you have not been battle tested in. 3rd and inches, we got it. 3rd and goal, we dominated. Right? Needing to stop defensively, we've done that. We have a proof of concept, and that proof of concept builds experience, and that experience builds confidence. So now you have an experienced and confident team that's been battle tested. Now, let's talk about the undefeated. The last time I checked, the goal was not to go undefeated. The goal was to host the Natty up and bring that trophy home back to your prospective environment. Yep. That's the goal. So we keep the main thing the main thing. Now, if by doing that we find ourselves in a situation to where we've had victory multiple times and having experience lost on the way of getting that, great. If we find that we've failed in our mission to win 1 or 2 times, but we got the overall goal accomplished, whether you're 13-0, 10-2, 11-1, you want to know what it says on that ring? National champion. So the goal for Texas has to be one every play, one day, every single time. That's it. Staying in the present, not looking too far ahead, and not dreading on the things behind. Leveraging our past as our professor and not our prisoner. We saw that situation, we learn from it, we get better. And as long as you're able to do that, now when you get into these moments to where you have to have it, you'll be able to get it. So if you ask me what the biggest leap for Texas is this year, it's that situational football, have to have it moments. They're on the other side of that, as opposed to them being on the opposite side of that these past few years.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. We're gonna hit the recruiting next week. I'm gonna send you the guys committed again, and we're gonna talk about some of those guys next week, because we got into a great conversation. To Tony's point, and I agree, it's kind of that Nick Saban point of, every season wasn't undefeated in conference play for Nick Saban. Look at the Texas softball team this year. They finished 4th in the SEC. They were very battle tested. They had seen everything they were going to have to see. And then in the playoffs, they have Miss Clutch.
Or the OU baseball team.
Yep.
Similarly, win the national championship. Yep.
It's tried and true, man. The teams that are more battle tested, when it comes to the moment where everything is on the line, they win. Look at the run that the New England Patriots had to the Super Bowl. They dominated teams, 18-0. The New York Giants, when you go back and look at their season, they had to scrap, call, and fight just to get into the playoffs. And once they got in there, they caught fire. So now you have a team that has been extremely battle tested versus another team that has Randy Moss having one of the greatest seasons and Tom Brady having one of the greatest seasons all time. And the team that was battle tested comes out on top. It's tried and true. This formula works. And so for Texas, the biggest thing that you want to make sure is that if a game is dropped, you don't allow that game to derail you from what the ultimate goal is, and you continue to move forward, right? That's what we're looking for. And I believe from a standpoint of Texas fandom, if those guys go out there and they're playing ball that looks like winning football and they fall short a game or two, you can live with that. The thing that we can't live with is when we seemingly have all of this talent and we feel like we're getting dominated, or we seemingly have all this talent and now we get into the spot to where it really matters, and now we're beating ourselves. What I mean? That's the thing that frustrates you. It's like, hey, that team that you're playing, they're good enough without your help. Like, let's control the controllable. So that's what we're looking for.
Can't fold like a piece of paper in a book when you're playing good teams.
Oh, I'm taking that, Bobby. I'll give you credit. But the next time I'm on the stage, I'm taking that, brother. I promise you. Oh, that's good. That's good. All right.
I'll ask see where Joey got his jacket from if you want to wear that next time you're on stage too.
Absolutely not, man. I would let J Mac have it, brother. You go do it, man. You and I listen. I can bet you he probably had somebody make that jacket.
Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt. We probably know who that is.
Absolutely. Emphasis on bet. Hook 'em horns, baby.
Have a good one. Thanks, Tony. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Good guy. World champion. National champion.
Been there, done it.
Yeah.
In a big way.
He didn't even mention himself, by the way, when he was breaking down the offensive line. He was the 6th man, wasn't he? On that offensive line.
Yeah.
As a young person, I think he was sophomore, freshman.
Yep.
All right, guys, we got a lot of super chats, including quite a few about the O-line. So let's jump right back in.
No way.
John MB says it seems like we just don't get as many mean fellas on the line as some of the guys around 2005.
USC fans say the same thing right now. It's interesting.
What do you mean by that? Like
USC doesn't think they're as physical
or something?
Yeah,
you're saying?
Yeah. It's interesting.
Generation, you're saying, right?
Well,
now.
it's also I think there's things that are they're give and takes, and you're gonna have to give something to get something. But are those schemes as physical? That's the thing, right? I mean, because some of your physicality when it's in your scheme kind of creates your players sometimes too. Now, Casey Studdard came to it was one of the reasons I actually circle, and I'm not comparing him, but I circle Jackson Cook in this recruiting class because he hates Oklahoma and A&M. People underestimate how much that means when an offensive lineman carries hate. Okay, Casey Studdard carried hate. And when you carry hate, that becomes physicality. And if you can carry hate and you're physical and you bring that physicality, that can carry over to other players. That's one of the reasons I like Jackson Cook in this class. I circled him because I've talked to him and he carries genuine that I hate Oklahoma and A&M thing about him. That's very valuable on the offensive line. So I don't know, Bobby. I think it's I've said before, I think Texas has to take their physicality up a notch on offense or two. And I think that is the case. I think that's what's in front of this offense.
And then we have from Muschamp's corn dog handler. With the O-line needs to improve statements, how do you measure that improvement? What does it look like on the field?
I think that pass protection and how do you measure pass protection? We just talked about it. It's so varied, right? I mean, one of the things that I mentioned in that discussion with Tony is like Vince Young sacking Vince Young or Michael Vick or whoever you want is drastically different than sacking other humans. It just is, right? And so how do you actually appropriately gauge success in that category? I don't know other than to say this. I thought the Texas offensive line was abysmal the first 6 games of the season. Like D or F last year. The only game I thought they played well in the first 6 or 7 was actually OU. Now, Sark had a really good game plan for that, but they didn't score a lot of points. You know, outside of that game was nip and tuck until Ryan Niblett took that return back. How do you gauge it? I think a good offensive line will allow for more explosive downfield throws because they'll hold up better in pass protection longer. So maybe that's something we need to follow. And I'm not talking about these 1-yard swing pass that Ryan Wingo takes 70 yards. That's not a long pass play. I mean, it is a long pass play, but it's not the kind I'm talking about. I'm talking about these 7-yard drops, play action that Steve Sarkisian loves to run. You know, going 3 or 4 vertical. I think that would be a gauge. I think consistency. Brian Irwin, the coach that's on with us during the football season, I'm really good friends with and have known forever, won a couple of national state championships. He would say run efficiency is a good sign of a solid offensive line. And so it's not about popping off a 20-yard run and then a 0-yard run and having a 10-yard average. He would say, I want 5 yards or 4.5 yards on every time I run it. Otherwise, you know, you're getting yourself behind the chains too frequently. Yeah. If you're getting a 0-yard run. So he would say the real test is actually not the average yard per carry, but the efficiency of that carry. Do you make a first down on that run? Do you get 5 yards? Those sorts of things, you know, that matter most. So I think that's how you gauge it officially. I don't know that I have the stats right now to tell you what that would look like.
Coach Irwin's point was mine. More consistent displacement in the run game. You want to see, I think, more consistent displacement. If you can displace people, you're going to have more positive runs. And the more positive runs, that to me, that's like the biggest thing. We talk about this with Sark all the time. Is I know people just think of him as a throw guy, a passing coach. But his best offense has been 52% runs, 48% or 53-47. If you displace people consistently in the run game, I think that's when I think you'll see the best Texas under Sark. And you have to do that in the SEC, I believe.
All right, so we got a few more to get to, but first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone one more time about our friend Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm.
Absolutely. Adam and the Lowy Law Firm have been helping injured Texans for more than 20 years now. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, from ATV to 18-wheeler, make sure you reach out to Adam and his firm at loweylawfirm.com. They'll give you a free, no strings attached consultation to see if you might be due compensation. Again, that is Adam and the loweylawfirm.com. Reach out to him, give him a shout. Thank you, Adam, for your ongoing support of On Texas Football.
And then our next super chat this morning, got two that are kind of along the same lines here. So let's start with Heartbeat 10. Thank you, Heartbeat. We always hear the defense is ahead of the offense. Do you think this will be the case this year in camp? Do you think it would be a good sign to hear the offense is at least even with the defense, possibly a little ahead?
It's a zero-sum game. Spring ball and fall camp are always zero-sum games. And so, no, I don't think it matters. I really don't. I do, like, from an offensive perspective, like, I want them to be able to move the ball a little bit. That is always, as I used to film every practice when I was in college. I used to film every practice. Okay. At the University of Texas. This was back from 89 to 92, okay, when I was in school, or 88 to 92. And so I could tell when an offense clicked by how many first downs they got, the ones versus ones. If they were 3 and out a couple times, it was just not – the offense that year probably wasn't going to be very good. Don't care how good the defense was, by the way. And Texas had a whale of a defense at one point during that tenure. And so I feel like you want to see your offense be able to move the ball some. They don't have to be perfect, but they need to be able to move the ball some. There have been times in the last 5 years where they haven't been able to move the ball at all. And I think that led to problems later in the year. Now, not often. I mean, Quinn Ewers, good quarterback. Arch, good quarterback. But the offensive line last year, I think, really hampered them early in particular. But overall, I would say that's Quinn's first year as a starter. They had a lot of problems doing that consistently. So I think that's what I'm looking for in fall camp is – Do they get 1v1s? Do you get a couple first downs and move the ball a little bit? Not so much do you go score every time, but do you show the signs of being able to compete against the best in an elite defense, which I think Texas ultimately will have? Do you show those signs? Period.
And on a somewhat related note, this one from Cade Stewart. What do y'all think needs to happen on both offense and defense for both sides to be firing on all cylinders this year? Also, is tight end a weakness?
Look, the first question is very simple. If you're a disciplined football, you execute at a higher level. Disciplined football team. If you're a disciplined football team, you're a more consistent football team. I mean, that is one easy one to answer for every team going into the year. I mean, when Coach Brown joined us, what did he hit on? Indiana was third in penalties in college football last year. When you don't beat yourselves and you're consistent in your execution, that's when you hit a fire on all cylinders. That doesn't mean scoring 50 points a game. That means you're in control of your team on both sides of the ball, and you're in control of your outcome on both sides of the ball. And that's what Indiana did so well last year. That's what you're shooting for. I mean, that's really what you're shooting for. The most talented team didn't win last year. Indiana wasn't. Ohio State was more talented. Miami was more talented. For sure. You probably could argue that Georgia has more NFL talent and Oregon had more NFL talent. And Indiana had good talent, don't get me wrong. They were the most disciplined football team. They were the most consistent football team. And then they came up clutching a couple of times when they really had to on top of it.
I don't think tight end's going to be a weak spot either. Not only is Nick Townsend returning, Amari Winston's returning, but also picking up Michael Masunis in the portal is going to be key, particularly in the run game, I think, matching with Spencer Shannon. I just don't see tight end as a weakness for Texas.
I don't either.
Hey, Blake, I want to say before we get out of here, and we are running a little late today. I want to mention number 59 real quick, if you don't mind. We're 59 days away. Lee Lyles from Mission, Texas, played at Texas, 3-year starter. A couple other guys. Look at these pass plays.
Mississippi
59
State.
yards.
Mississippi State's on here.
Yeah, Mississippi State's on there twice. Bob Shipley came up with the 59-point discussion. The 1961 Longhorns only gave up 59 points all season. That was from Bob. Lee Lyles, by the way, is from Mission, Texas. Y'all know who the most famous University of Texas grad is from Mission, Texas? Anybody?
No clue.
Tom Landry.
You got it, Tom Landry.
Wow.
Jerry's using Wikipedia.
I pulled that directly out of my Joey Maguire.
All right. Wanted to mention that before we congratulations to Lee Lyles. 59 days away from Longhorn season starting.
All right, more super chats to jump into this morning. Let's see here. Our next one comes from Hua Hin Golfer. Says, Tony is spot on. Who did Texas defeat in the Rose Bowl in 2005 and defeat early in the 2005 season? Don't worry about Arch's early start. I'm flying to Vegas like I did to LA in 2006. Hook 'em.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, that was Michigan in 2005 Rose Bowl and USC in the 2006 for the 2005 season.
Yeah.
Look, I hope we see something like that. Texas needs to beat Ohio State out of the gate. Their second week, to Jerry's point. I'm still not sure, Jerry, that it's a must win, but I think your back then is against the wall if they don't.
Yeah.
And then we have Spanish Steve. What's the biggest what if this season?
Well,
What if XYZ doesn't get injured?
Yeah.
Tony really made a good point. And it kind of got swept on the rug because we always have to make that caveat that injuries, well, other than injuries, blah, 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 blah. So I think injuries is the biggest what if.
Yeah. Yeah. I always put injuries off to the side. So
I know that's what I'm saying. You have, but thereby that is the eternal what if.
Yeah. My big one for this team, and I hate to put it on one player because it's more than about one player. Mason Shipley did not miss a field goal between 30 and 49 yards last year. He didn't miss between 30 and 49 yards. There's gonna in this schedule you play, there's gonna be a couple of 3 kicks from 30 to 49 yards that are gonna be very meaningful in outcomes of games.
Jerry, your headstone is going to have whenever they lower you asunder.
Yeah.
Your headstone is going to be remember the punters and kickers. That's
look.
I'm not saying
you know what's crazy? They're the lowest paid guys in an NIL perspective, and they can take as much blame as a quarterback for a loss.
Oh, they do.
Yes.
Then there's no they can. They do take. You know, there's an upright somewhere that's got Bert Auburn's name on it.
Think about the Bobby Bowden's losses to Miami.
Oh my gosh.
How many of those kicks would he have had? 4 national championships or 5? The kicks against Miami, how much did that cost him? And it wasn't like they were 57-yarders into the wind.
A couple of those
had 4 national championships.
Like the first, I remember watching those games, the Florida State Miami games. A couple of them were just wide, little wide right, and then one year it was just way wide left. It's like the guy shaked it. And you're just like Bobby Bowden's just looking there in disbelief.
How does the history of Florida State and Miami, as far as national titles won, shift off of that? Is it by 2?
Probably.
Pretty crazy.
Probably. Again, your headstone. Yep. Remember the punters and kickers.
Yeah, I'll be buried next to Bobby Bowden.
I'm going to bury Jerry on the right hash. That's from Matt, our producer. I love it.
Houlihan also says, Bobby, we beat Ohio State early in the season.
I'm here for it.
All right, let's see. Bald Father Bets. What with the number one total defense winning the title the past 3 seasons, which I don't think has become a rule, but some do, says Bald Father. What's Texas' path without number one defense?
It's a great question because I don't think Texas will be number one in defense.
No.
Not on this schedule. I think you need to balance probably. I think you'll look back and say you're really balanced, like top 15 in defense, top 15, 20 in offense. I think it's going to have to be really balanced.
I'd like to see them better than that in offense.
They should be. They should be. I agree.
I'm not saying it's going to take a 2019 LSU or 2020 Alabama performance on offense, but it's going to if they're going to win a national championship, it's going to have to be close because they're playing too many good quarterbacks, to Jerry's point.
Yeah. And that's before a playoff if you get in.
Yeah. I mean, they're playing too many good quarterbacks.
No.
That are going to put points on the scoreboard, period. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be follow the formula of Indiana last season. Where you can win at Penn State with 15 points or 18 points, whatever they did,
Yeah.
Win a national or, score 2 touchdowns against Ohio State to win a national championship. It's going to have to be more than that.
So our final one for today comes from Juan Garza. It says 2 things. Jerry and Bobby, do you think that Royal flips, or does Texas play the Oregon card and tell him that he could be different? Also, is Lincoln Riley intimidated as far as coaching at USC?
On the Royal thing, it's so interesting to me. I would say if my years doing this, saying if he doesn't come out soon, I don't mean soon this week, but relatively soon, and say Texas is my school, and that I don't think would end his recruitment. I think it's going to go all the way to December. But if he doesn't come out and make a kind of definitive statement early or soon in July, I think it gets tougher for Texas. But NIL changes recruiting so much. But I think in this scenario, I don't think it's an NIL decision. I think everybody's competitive. He's a 5-star and he's going to be NIL'd like one. But I think if he doesn't come out in next couple 3 weeks, Bobby, and say, you know what, after all the visits, Texas is still where I'm at in this process, I think it gets tough for Texas at that point. But if you don't hear something soon, then I think your odds go down.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's a competitive recruitment, and we're going to see a bunch of those each and every year. He is an outstanding player and would be a loss to any team's recruiting class if they lost him, though. I don't want to sugarcoat that. Yeah. As far as intimidated, is Lincoln Riley intimidated by coaching at USC? No,
sorry, Bobby. He meant in the SEC. He came
back
later.
In the SEC. Yeah, I think he didn't want to.
Right.
He didn't like that move. But I want to say this about Lincoln Riley. Let's go back. I mean, there are guys that start on third base. Lincoln Riley, as a head coach, started on third base at Oklahoma. He had the most talented team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Most talented quarterbacks in the Big 12. He started on third base. When he moved to USC, he did not start on third base.
No.
And you see the product of that. Now he's worked his way through it. And will he come out on the other end? Not sure. But, I think Lincoln Riley, with his offense, or you just don't, frankly, you just don't want to play in the SEC and having that wide open of an offense. You just don't. It exposes your quarterback too much, I think.
All right, y'all. That is going to do it for this episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. We want to thank Adam, along with Prize Picks, Zen AI, and Mint Mobile, all for sponsoring today's show. Also, thank you to Tony Heels for joining us, as he does every Wednesday. Bobby, what do you have for folks later?
We got State of the Program coming up next. That'll be here on Texas Football. We also have some more on the Big 12 media days and some of the, not so smart comments made not only by Joey McGuire, but boy, Brett Yormark did a horrible deal for the Big 12. The Big 12 is now known as the Monster Energy Big 12 Conference. And every single field will have a Monster Energy logo on it, as well as their jersey patch that carries in with the Big 12. Like, can you imagine the SEC doing that? I can't. I think that the SEC would, the individual teams, by the way, that only is going to value each team in the Big 12, give them about $1 million. Texas wouldn't sell a patch on their jersey for $1 million a year for anything. I mean, they'd have to be like 20 million, 25. So, but there you are when you're led by a carnival barker.
I saw that. I saw it on Kansas, by the way.
Yeah, Kansas going to have cryptocurrency. They'll get a lot more than what Yormark sold his patch for. But my point being, we'll have more from there on TexasFootball.com. Make sure you check that out. Also, we have more coming up later this evening. Have a live stream. Get your questions in for that. It's typically an Ask Me Anything type live stream on Wednesday nights.
That's right. Okay, well, we hope you all have an outstanding day today. Of course, we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Welcome, Horns.